Last I had read, leading into the camp, there were 7 of the 8 guys had been signed. And I think Kick said the 3rd-round pick, tackle, hadn't. Did they finally come to terms with him? How did that play out?
Well, first of all, he was in camp. And the 3rd-round picks, it has not there's no official deal yet. But the 3rd-round picks are always harder because there's a little bit of I don't know if it's a loophole or the way there's more money for them to bargain with in the 3rd round. The signing bonus is slotted, but the salary is not. So there's a little bit more bargaining there and getting percentage on all the deals. So that's why the 3rd-round pick is always, one of the last ones, but there's been nothing officially announced there.
All right. And our friend, a fellow DeMatha grad, did he tear his Achilles?
Torn quad.
Whatever it was, torn quad, and he could be out, the whole year maybe. Did they know that when they signed Laval, or did it happen after?
No, it happened afterwards, and it was because he didn't go to get the test. It didn't come out until Friday, and he was going to get a second opinion on Friday. They'll find out officially today after they talk to doctors about it, but the fear clearly is a torn quad and he'd be out for the year. But no, Laval was somebody, and I've mentioned this a few times, but Laval was always on the radar for coming back this year, and it was as much about they kind of knew he was going to be there.
John Walsh, the rookie from Iowa, all of a sudden retiring. I mean, did that leave the Redskins a little bit blindsided?
You know what? Honestly, I don't know if it left them blindsided. I think you could say it would be a surprise to anybody because here's the thing. I know, a lot of fans kept kind of harping on the guy. With undrafted guys, I don't get all that excited about them until you start seeing something in training camp.
Right.
And I wouldn't have counted on a guy who was an undrafted free agent to come in and be a solution at left guard in his first year. Those guys are future guys. So he was never really an option. You had guys ahead of him who were veterans. I mean, Kyle Kalis and Kyle Catalina were in the same position last year as him, undrafted, and they've been here a year. And you had Quanjo, and you have possibly a Ty and Secchi, and at that time you had Quanjo, you had Laval as well. So I think anytime a kid hangs it up, you're going to be surprised. They had the quarterback, I think it was last year, who did the same thing.
All right, let's get to the guys that we really care about. Darius Geis, who apparently doesn't miss school. Tell us what you saw from him and what you heard about him.
Yeah, and we're only out there for the one day on Friday, and during that time it's maybe an hour and 40 minutes, so you're getting kind of a little bit of only a small taste of what is going on. They're not in pads or anything like that, so you're only getting that. But what you saw from Geis is a guy who, clearly has some energy on the field, extremely happy to be out there, always having a smile on his face, has a pretty big personality, and I think fans will see that over more and more over time. So that's a little bit what you saw from him, because you can't tell as a runner. I could go out there and look halfway decent as a runner because you're not getting tackled. So I think that part is whatever, but it's the other stuff that that you see now with some of the other guys. When you put them in one-on-one situations, you start to see a little bit of what you want to watch later, like a guy like the 7th-round pick, Trey Quinn, the slot receiver. I think he'll be an interesting guy to watch. I mean, Crowder's in the slot. That's his spot. But I think Quinn could help out. And you see how he sets up guys on his routes. You see the way he stems and all that. From a football perspective, you can see why teams liked him and why they liked him. Jerron Christian, the third-round tackle, you see the long arms. You see some of the athleticism. You can see the size of a Deron Payne and, just how thick he is, and Tim Settle, guys like that. So that's a lot of what you see, and then just the way they, how they conduct themselves running to drills, who's first in line, that kind of thing. Geis was, Tim Settle and Payne always were 1-2. So, those are the kind of things that you start to pick up on.
Anybody else jump out at you?
In that limited time, it's really hard to say. I think, one of the guys that I think would be fun to watch if he gets his weight in shape is a running back, Martez Carter, from Grambling State. But he's like 210 pounds.
He's small. Isn't he like 5'7" or 5'8"?
He's 5'7" and 210 pounds. I think he's going to be. But see, that's what I say. He's going to have to get into some Tariq Cohen, who was the Bears last year, kind of paved the way. My understanding is he was not necessarily considered as good as Cohen, but is a guy who can do similar things. So, yeah, I think he jumps out just because you can see that. I think he could be somebody to watch. I think, like I said, Quinn kind of jumped out a little bit as well, and it's really hard to get, because again, they're in shorts and a helmet. It's really hard to get a great feel for what they're going to eventually do. But those are some of the early stand-ups.
I mean, some of the kids they signed, the college free agents they signed, were really good football players. I mean, Quinn Blanding at Virginia, good football player. Simi Cobbs, the receiver from Indiana, good football player.
Absolutely, and those are some of the guys that that when you talk around like those, there are a few guys that I think stood out in terms of coming into the rookie minicamp as far as the undrafteds go, and those are definitely two on the list of guys who have a shot. And because one, like for Quinn Blanding, a lot of safety depth, so there's a roadmap, there's a path there for him to make it if they keep more than 4 safeties, which they did not do last year.